haven't said anything yet. Can you all hear me?
Yeah.
I'm big enough for God anyway. So, my name is Linda, and I've worked in the NHS for about 35 years, just over. When I was little, I used to drive my mum crazy. Every other word was why. When my son was born, through circumstances beyond my control, like my husband disappearing with my best friend and getting her pregnant and leaving you destitute, I had to go back to work. So my mum used to have my son quite a lot, and she used to say, it reminds me of you so much, because every other word out of his mouth is why. And it just makes me think that, you know, some of us are born with that questioning mind, I suppose, to want to know what's going on around us. But there are a lot of people, as we know, that don't. And a lot of it is really through constraints, I think, of society, you know, having to pay the bills, the mortgage. People are running around like blue-ass flies.
They haven't got time to think.
They haven't got time to think, absolutely. I think sometimes, because I had to retire out a few years ago through ill health, so I had more time to think. Although I've always questioned, I hadn't got the time to actually research, do anything. So I started to research, and it started because they wanted to build the new Queen Elizabeth Hospital. And years ago, when I first started nursing, it was all about, well, the local health authority, if they wanted to build a hospital or a clinic, they just went ahead and built it, and that was that. But all of a sudden, they were talking about bidding and contracts, and Mark Brittle, who was our chief executive at the time, was applying for you know, these contracts, and I don't understand business. And then he saved the day, and then all of a sudden he's leaving, he gets a job for a few months at another health authority, and then he gets a job in government. Albert Bohr, I don't know whether any of you have heard of Albert Bohr, leader, he was Labour leader of the council, Birmingham Council. Albert Bohr, yeah? Yeah. He was involved at the time, and now he's chairman of the University Hospital Birmingham. So it got me thinking, what the hell is going on? Has anybody heard of a company called Balfour Beatty?
Yeah.
A building company?
Yeah. Massive contractors.
Massive contractors. Yeah. Anybody know what else they're involved in? Any ideas?
Roads.
Roads. Yeah.
Asphalt. Tarmacking.
Military contracts.
Curbs.
Pipelines. It's a bit more than that. Anyway, let's have a look at what I've got. I have to put my glasses on, I'm getting old. Right. In June 2010, profit from operations was up 34% to 151 million. Pre-tax profits up 32% to 141 million. The PFIs were instigated by the Tories in 1992 to 93. The PFIs was the sort of private finance initiatives, public finance initiatives, PPIs they sometimes call them, PFIs, PPPs, they call them all sorts of names. The Balfour Beatty, it sounds like just this building company, it's not. They called themselves Consort at the time. There were two contracts bidding for the Queen Elizabeth, and one of them was Consort, and Consort I found out was the healthcare division of Balfour Beatty. So I wanted to look into what else was going on, and what I found, I've done it's about over 12 months now of research into what is going on, and I would very much like to make a documentary. I haven't actually started making a documentary, I have no documentary making skills whatsoever. A couple of the fellas here have said they'll you know, try and help me out. So it isn't going to be made anytime soon, because I really need some help with this. I have some information here about the companies that they're involved with. I'll have to put the mic down for a minute. This is all the pages of companies that Balfour Beatty are involved with. I mean, it's huge. Before they started building hospitals, not just hospitals, schools, road and rail networks, before all this, before the QE was built, they were done for so many things. They were done for negligence, bribery, corruption, blacklisting, health and safety breaches. And some of the things got here. I actually got, believe it or not, I went down to London a few times early this year because there was a man that said he would help me make a documentary. It was his idea to do it. He said, you've got so much information here, let's make a documentary, but he let me down. But I'd already got the BMA to agree to an interview, which was quite good really, and Unison were also interested. So I got all this set up, and then nothing happened. In the next 30 years, private companies could make up to 3.4 billion in profit from the NHS. There have been a number of high-profile cases involving companies such as Balfour Beatty. There's been proof of negligence, bribery, corruption and involvement with the Office of Fair Trade, who have fined them for these wrongdoings. There's a certain £2.25 million paid to settle bribery allegations over £100 million overseas contract. The company helped build the Alexandria Library in Egypt in 2001. The firm was implicated in false accounting. Business records were not kept in accordance with the Companies Act of 1985. Balfour Beatty also paid bribes into a Swiss bank account to get construction contracts in Africa. The corruption surrounds the Lesotho Dam project. The local chief executive of the dam project had taken more than £3 million in bribes. The Lesotho Dam project meant that more than 24,000 people lost their farms or access to communal grazing land. The Mueller Dam project, this is another country, meant that 7,400 were affected. They had poor compensation, delays in housing and soil erosion, along with troubled labour relations. In '96, after 2,300 workers were sacked for striking, 5 men were shot dead and 30 injured. The consortium involved Balfour Beatty. The taxpayers' money was used for the Ilusu Dam project in Turkey. 200 million of which Balfour Beatty money was actually credit from the Department of Trade and Industry. This was a few years after Balfour Beatty was involved with the Pergo Dam scandal, where British aid was used to fund the dam in return for us selling arms to Malaysia. Wherever there have been dams built abroad by this company, there's followed in their wake death and destruction of the environment. One of the dams built leaks and has been a total waste of money. At the time of the Pergo Dam, Sir Charles Powell, Thatcher's Foreign Relations Advisor until 90, became a director of Trafalgar House, which owned cementation involved with the dam. There's an awful lot of this goes on. They've been blacklisting, so they've actually paid for investigators to have a blacklist of people that can't work for them or that they've investigated. They've got many subsidiaries which are involved with the MOD, guidance systems, surveillance systems. The Office of Fair Trade have also named these companies for price rigging. So if Balfour Beatty doesn't get a contract for, say, building the QE, if they haven't got that contract and somebody else had got it, then they would be paid compensation for that from the other company. So they're price rigging between them. They're making a fortune. They don't just build the hospital. It's a mortgage out to the NHS. I mean, at one time in hospitals, you had a sort of a department that dealt with any kind of building work that needed doing, that kind of thing. But all the facilities in these hospitals, schools, whatever, are all Balfour Beatty companies, even down to the security. It's all Balfour Beatty. So if you want even a hook putting up or anything, a drawer fixed, it's all Balfour Beatty, and you pay way over the odds.
You've got the maintenance contract in there as well.
Yeah, yeah. They've got the maintenance contract.
Is it clinic soap as well? The clinic soap you have to do.
Everything is owned by Balfour Beatty.
Who are they? Who's actually? Who are they? Who are Balfour Beatty?
They started off as a construction company.
Right.
At the moment, the chief executive is called Ian Tyler.
Right.
But he's been in all sorts of things in the past anyway, and he's been, involved with all sorts of companies. They acquired Parsons Brinkerhoff a few years ago, and that's a huge company. I mean, they're not just British either. I mean, they're abroad, American especially.
What seems to happen, is the government legislates services that perhaps we don't want and creates a monopoly on it.
Yeah.
So we end up having to pay for services that we don't really want, but we think, okay, government people are supplying the services. Then what they do is, like you've said there, what they do then, they farm out the contracts. So we could have got the independent services anyway, right? Anyway, having to have them legislated into our life. You know, it's basically we're paying people to control us. That's what's basically happening here.